Welcome, governors. Our guest is Derreck Ogden. Derreck is a candidate for the City of Stuart Commissioner, Group 3. He's lived in Stuart for more than 20 years and is raising his daughter here. Derreck owns and operates a nationwide IT cybersecurity and compliance company serving autism therapy centers. Boy, that didn't come out well. And has worked on the private company side of municipal contracts and negotiations. He has never held public office. Derreck has not been provided questions in advance, and he's been given the opportunity to bring his own camera to independently record this interview. Derreck, welcome to Govern Your Shit.
Thanks for having me.
And we're thrilled to have you. Now, let's just start this deep dive. We didn't need a snorkel. So we're freestyling this one. You claim that you're not here to shake things up. Yet, you're proposing significant changes in the Stuart's development policy. Transparency, public participation, and accountability. If these goals aren't shaking things up, what are?
When I say I don't want to shake things up, I feel like our city government has been shaken enough. The pendulum has swung from grow, baby, grow, or as I've been saying, here we grow again. We had 2,608 new residential units approved in 4 years. We're not even done building that yet. From 2018 to 2022, when my opponent was on the dais, that's what got approved. And we're still not done building those buildings. Then in the following 4 years, we had 60. And, the developers refer to that as chaos. The special interests say it's chaos, right? This is chaotic. And it is to a certain extent. And when you look at their balance sheets, their pocketbooks, right? The development has slowed down to the point that it gave a lot of us whiplash. And the developers are the ones that are really upset about that. There's been a lot of changes that have taken place on the city government that have been necessary, but the way that they happened was unfortunate, including the firing of Mike Mortel. I have had dealings with him before and never had any issues, but I've heard things, and it's clear to me that the right move was to not have Mike Mortel working at the city anymore. We have a great city manager now. The other chaos that has been mentioned is the fact that we had several city managers between Mike Mortel and our current city manager who were all interim, right? So what's been said is we had 4 city managers in whatever period of time, but 2 of those were interim city managers. So the chaos, the slamming on the brakes, the whiplash from development being,
you're looking for some harmony.
Yeah, and it's not always easy to step into a role and stop the current direction of something, and that's really where the past commission was 4 years ago, and it was difficult for them. And there were, like I said, a lot of things that were done that were maybe drastic or a little bit more theatrical than I would have liked to seen them happen, but the end result was what needed to happen, and we don't need to be shaken anymore. We just need to make sure that we're governing and giving the power to the people. Like this whole argument over the baseball fields isn't we should sell the baseball fields or we shouldn't sell the baseball fields. My argument is that it shouldn't be up to 3 commissioners on a Monday night to decide whether the baseball fields get sold or not. And that's the kind of governance I want to see in our city, where the power is in the hands of the residents.
You said some developers were upset. Can you put an address on those some developers? Who are you talking about?
So when you're looking at all the races right now for city and county, it's very easy to tell who somebody's working for by who pays them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did as soon as I decided to run, I said, no developer money. We're not taking any PAC money. We're not taking any special interest money. I was approached by several organizations that I consider to be good organizations that I would support. I'm not going to name them directly.
Okay.
But they offered to support financially. And I said, I made a campaign promise. I'm not going to take any special interest money. While you're good people and I've got your back, you're a special interest. And I don't want anybody to think that, I'm going to be taking money from you and that I'm going to owe you a favor later.
No
I want to
quid
have your
pro.
back genuinely.
No quid pro quos.
Yeah. So the addresses are listed on the campaign donation report.
So he's reluctant to name names. We're going to have to accept that. Do me a favor, do us a favor. Can you define slow growth management so an outsider can recognize it objectively, an objective standard? What does slow growth mean?
Stuart's going to grow. It's a great place, which is why I want to fight for it, to keep it the way it is. Not to keep everything exactly the way it is forever, but not to encourage development. One of the things that my opponent has said multiple times is that there's no unsolicited bids like for the baseball fields. Nobody's trying to buy the baseball fields. The baseball fields aren't for sale. Same thing with applications. Right now we have a zoning in progress, so there's not a lot of applications in play right now, which is why we've only had 60 approvals in the last 4 years for new residential units, or 60 new residential units approved. It's the nature of the commission and the people who are on the commission that either attract or repel those kinds of applications. If a developer knows that I've got these 3 commissioners that are going to approve this, and if I go in and I put in an application, I go through this whole process and I spend the money and put out the effort, I'm probably going to get what I want. That's going to attract that type of application, right? Those types of developers are going to come in and ask because they're probably going to get a yes, or there's a good chance they're going to get a yes. And they might have to negotiate or make a few concessions in their application process, but they're going to get this commercial property and they're going to turn it into multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, even with the 2-2 split, a developer is not likely to go through all that trouble if they don't have the support on the commission to do it. But the reason that my opponent is so heavily funded and supported by developers is because he knows they're on their side. And with this 2-2 split that we have right now, the residents have to pick.
Right.
Do you want a government that's working for you, or do you want a government that's working for developers?
Now, you've stated that you're seeking a forensic investigation for all Stuart's finances. Are you referring to a forensic audit when you say that?
I want to audit. I want to know all the numbers. I want to go back as far as we can go. And I think it's important that the taxpayers understand where the money is going in the city. I mean, down to the dollar.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of people who have been in the city for a long time, in the finance and management, city attorneys. It's been the same old crew that have been running things for decades. And that's only started to really change a lot recently.
Right.
So we have old habits that are likely still in play, that a lot of new people on our finance team are getting a handle on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have a great staff at the city, by the way. This is nothing against anybody on our city. I've been booking events at parks and dealing with the paperwork and all that good stuff. And our team on our city is really great. We're very fortunate to have that staff. But I think it's important for full transparency that everybody who lives in the city and pays their taxes knows historically what's been going on with our money.
What are you using as a predicate for involving an independent forensic accounting firm? This is costly stuff.
Yes. I wasn't sure if that was going to get a lot of voter support, because it's always something that, I have several businesses and I want to know what's going on with my finances all the time.
Probably a little bit easier.
Yeah, a little bit. But, there's a lot of dark areas and, budget line items that aren't real clear. And
the description isn't clear of the budget item?
Well, I'm trying to think of a specific example. I'm probably not going to be able to pull one out of my hat, but the way that the money gets spent
Mm-hmm.
in government is easy for a person who's in the bureaucracy, otherwise known as a bureaucrat, to understand.
And we're not saying that in a disparaging way.
This money goes here, that money goes there. This is the general fund. This can get used for police and fire.
Right.
Right. But really understanding beyond that, to go deeper and really understand what's happening in the city. There are debates over what things cost. I've heard that Sailfish Ball Field needs to be sold because it costs us $200,000 a year, and then you hear 275, 300. So there's all these different numbers. I'd like somebody who has no dog in the fight to really sit down and lay out what everything actually costs.
What years and departments would you like to audit?
I don't know how far back we can go.
Okay.
Right. And like you said, it's costly.
Very.
Right? But I would say, 5 years, 10 years would be good. And all the departments.
Have you drafted a scope of work or obtained a preliminary cost for this audit?
I haven't. This is how far I've gotten with it. When I'm talking to people and knocking on doors, I've knocked on about 1,200 doors.
Okay.
And when I'm talking to the residents, and remember, this is not a Derreck idea, all right? When I'm talking to residents, I get feedback from them like, how do you feel about backyard chickens? And for the most part, I don't care about backyard chickens.
That made me laugh.
We'll go back to the budget side, but just as an example, the backyard chickens, I walked up to a man's door. And he answered the door, and I handed him one of my palm cards, and he says, "Oh, okay, this is interesting." And I said, "Listen, slow growth, the river, like the regular spiel." And he goes, "How do you feel about backyard chickens?" And I said the same thing I've said probably 500 times. And I said, I don't have a problem with chickens in the backyard.
What is the fascination of Stuart backyard chickens?
He hands me my card back. He goes, "You can get off my front porch."
Seriously?
And I said, wait. Can you talk to me for a few minutes about why you don't like backyard chickens, right? I said, because I've knocked on a lot of doors, talked to a few hundred people about backyard chickens, and you're the first person who's had an issue with it, right?
To the point that he was ejecting you from his property.
I got to have a conversation with him, and I also made it clear to him that of the two options that you have for seat 3, we're both cool with backyard chickens.
Oh, thank God. Okay. We'll just relax.
As far as I know, Merritt's still okay with backyard chickens, but the gentleman explained to me, my neighbors have chickens in their backyard. I've lived here for 45 years. I've never had rats. He goes, but they throw the chicken feed all over the ground, and now there's rats coming in. I said, well, you're not supposed to do that with chickens. They're supposed to be in a coop. They're supposed to have an appropriate run, and the food's not supposed to be on the ground. I said, so it's not necessarily the chickens in the backyards that are causing the rats. It's not proper care for the chickens. How are
you so well versed in chicken husbandry?
Let me tell you something. I've talked a lot about backyard chickens in the last couple of months. Along the same lines with the budget, right? This is coming from a lot of people expressing interest in where their money's been going for all these years, right? And that is the general concern. Does Derreck have a specific concern or suspicion about somewhere in the city where money is leaking?
Right.
No, I don't.
Okay, so you just want to educate the public. Do you recognize that if you were to conduct a cost-benefit analysis, it might not be worth the money, and maybe something more along the lines of a performance review would be more appropriate?
If that's what the voters want, that's what the voters want. This is what I'm saying. So bringing up an opportunity to review something. This isn't something where we're just going to walk in and say, all right, we're doing a review of all of our finances, and
we're starting with the
money.
Chickens.
No, this is going to be a conversation that's going to be had in a commission meeting, and public comment would be welcome for that.
Now,
this is a conversation that we need to have.
Let's exhaust the backyard chickens. When we're talking about backyard chickens, are we approving hens, roosters, or both? Because roosters are annoying.
Roosters are a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to have roosters with the backyard chickens.
Okay.
No.
So why don't we just say backyard hens? Why does it have to be backyard chickens? Because chickens, I'm doing this with a straight face, it's more inclusive. No, not really. It's more inclusive. So why don't we just say backyard hens?
Listen, I have friends that have chickens in their backyard. I get fresh eggs from them. I don't want chickens in my backyard. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, but that's because you're privileged and you have a neighbor with chickens.
I also have a single family home, which may be elitist of me. But yes, the
Oh boy.
the issue with the chickens is, and this comes back to property rights, right? So you have a piece of property that you own, and you have a right to do with that piece of property what you want to do with that property until it violates the rights of your neighbors, right? And that's where it ends. And I can't remember who made the quote, but in America, you have a right to shake your fist, but that right ends at your
where
neighbor's
the nose begins,
right? So that's where it has to stop, right? As soon as your neighbors are having rat problems because of your chickens.
Well, yeah, but you can make the same argument about a Saturday night pool party that goes until 1 o'clock in the morning.
We all got to live together. But fresh eggs are also very good.
Fresh eggs are very good. I'm just wondering what the decibel level of a proper rooster is.
Yeah, the rooster thing is a problem. I mean, because they crow.
So today, would you commit to changing the narrative from backyard chickens to backyard hens?
I think so. If you want to be gender specific about it.
I'm glad we ironed that out.
Solving the world's problems right here.
Let's go back to slow growth. Now, housing is a classic supply and demand conundrum. Do we agree? You're going to say
in some ways.
Okay, in one way it's not. Just give me one way it's not.
Induced demand.
How is that not supply and demand?
It's
not saying it's not artificial.
Yeah. So supply and demand is important. It's economic law, not even theory. But if you build it, they will come, right? And the people you build for are the ones who will come, right? Traffic. You have a 3-lane highway, traffic is backed up. That problem is not solved by adding 2 more lanes to that highway, right? That's induced demand.
Okay.
So
I see where you're going.
So
with
the Cube Smart. You know, I was curious to know.
You love the Cube Smart.
I know the Cube Smart is such an eyesore right on the side of US 1. Like
doesn't fit in.
We need self storage, but like right there, like we had to put it right there. It's next to like a little 1,200 square foot house, right? So Cube Smart immediately, as soon as they opened, they filled right up, right? We need self storage. We do need places for people to store stuff.
But could the Cube Smart have designed its exterior so it fit the community a little bit better?
Yes, and it could have been elsewhere. Like there's plenty of other places that could have gone in the city, over by Walmart or numerous other locations. What was the original question?
I don't know. I'm going into chickens. I'm going into chickens and storage.
I got off of Cube Smart. Oh, so the apartments and the housing. In the same respect, if you build apartments, they are going to get filled up. We're in Florida. Like you're going to build a house that's going to sell. Okay, that's not difficult. Now the goose that lays the golden eggs in Stuart and in Martin County in general is our river, our green spaces, our beaches. That's why people want to be there. So if you have grass and forest and trees and it rains, the water soaks into the grass. If you pave it or you roof it, it runs off into the river. Like I don't have to go to Boulder, Colorado and get a degree in biology like my opponent did to understand that is one thing is good for the river and one thing is not as good for the river. So if you're going to build apartments, they're going to fill up. That doesn't mean that you needed those apartments there, right? It's induced demand. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I do think you're being a little bit theoretically careless, but we're not going to address that now. Not for another podcast. Okay. Just don't have time. Looking at the clock.
Yeah, I want to get into this,
and I realize that we'll invite you back in, and we'll bang that specific.
Here's an example.
Okay.
The reason that we were given from 2018 to 2022 for the new apartments, all the apartment approvals, was we need more affordable housing, right? Find me one of those apartments that's actually affordable.
How much
and
are
then
they?
we can have a conversation about it.
What is the rent?
I have a friend who lives in the Central Parkway Lofts, which is one of the apartments that was approved.
Okay.
And she's paying like $3,200 a month, which is expensive. So we're talking about a situation where we're using affordable housing as the reason
For
for
not,
building all these, but then they're
and
not
it's not
affordable.
affordable.
Last week, Wednesday,
Hmm.
all of the city candidates are at a forum, and we're in Poppleton Creek. Somebody brings up affordable housing, and it's going down the line. I think it was Kylie, and then Merritt, and then Campbell Rich, and then Eula, and then me. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to them talk as the microphone is moving in my direction, and I am dumbfounded by what's being said because all of the candidates explained how affordable housing is basically a bunk and that it's a national level issue, it's a federal level issue. And there's a little bit of stuff you can do with the state, but there's really nothing that the city commission actually has the power to do for affordable housing. So then when the mic gets to me, I'm looking at the crowd and I said, you just listen to the people who are approving all these apartments and using the excuse of affordable housing. You just listen to three of them in a row tell you that the affordable housing argument is out of their hands.
How did the
It's not
audience
real.
react to that?
I don't think they said anything.
Oh, okay. They did nod heads, groan, cheer.
I don't know. I was looking this way. They were sitting next to me, but
I gotcha.
you know, it's an excuse when really what's in plain sight is a developer asks and they receive.
Please comment below. I'd like to see what you have to say about that. Now, if Stewart limits new housing inventory while demand continues to grow, would ensure slow growth policies increase housing costs even more?
So you're talking about single family homes, or are you talking about just housing in general?
You decide. It's a fair question. You decide. Go with whichever one is more difficult.
I think it's tough
Mhm.
for anybody to sit in this chair and tell you that I have an answer for this, right?
That's fair.
And somebody said something about me wanting to be the smartest person up there, and I'm not. The smartest person up there of all these candidates is Will Laughlin, and he's going to be mad at me for throwing him under the bus. But
All right, well, there you go.
So Will's got to come on and do this podcast. But you know, I don't think that government is the solution to all of our problems. I think we can cause more problems than we can actually solve, which is what I'd like to.
I hear Ronald Reagan in the background.
Just what would like to slow down on.
Yeah.
And just like my my fellow candidates told us all on Wednesday, there's not much that a local city government can actually do to impact the cost of housing, except for screw it up. Like, it's easy to make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to make it better. One concern that I have is when we keep seeing commercial land turned into residential land, whether
Mhm.
it's for multifamily or single family, commercial to residential, those conversions keep happening, and we have less and less room for companies to come in and build on that land and make jobs, right?
Yes.
So, you know, the workforce housing is an argument. It's just not a valid argument for what for something the city can actually do something about from a commission standpoint.
Mm-hmm. I follow what you're saying.
So, you know, it breaks my heart to see people struggling. I mean, I bought my house in 2015. I think I paid $240, which is unheard of now. Like, you can't do that anymore. You know, it was a total gut. I had to put another couple $100,000 into it to fix it up and make it nice and livable. But you're not finding those kinds of deals. You're not finding those fixer-uppers in Stewart anymore because it's become so popular that, you know, boomers or corporations are coming in and buying them up and, you know, flipping them or turning them into Airbnbs. There's a house down the street from mine that was a total gut, smaller, 2.2, and it just sold for $650. I was like, oh, that'd be a good little rental investment. And it's $650. Like,
it's no longer little.
And then they're remodeling it. You know,
wow.
You know, they need a new roof, and the entire interior's been gutted. So it is difficult to figure out the housing problem because our real estate market is so good in Stewart, and what makes it good is our river, our green spaces, our outdoor living in the city of Stewart. And if we lose that, the whole real estate market's going to go with it.
Do you consider downsizing an infringement on the impacted private property rights?
Downsizing, what do you
Downzoning.
downzoning, and
Yeah.
in what context?
Well, somebody has a vested property right.
Mm-hmm.
It's zoned for X,
Mm-hmm.
and it's downzoned to prevent them from doing what they want to do.
I'm not familiar with that process. Or
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Don't become familiar with that process.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it can lead to litigation, and it's best just to stay away from it.
Yeah, so you're talking about somebody having a property where they have a right to do something and that right's taken away?
Hence the infringement on the property
Yeah,
right.
that's not...
Because when you buy property, there's an expectation, a reasonable expectation, that whatever you could have done on the day of closing, you could do 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, and further, even beyond that, there's also an expectation that your neighbors... You know what their rules are. You know what their property is zoned for.
Absolutely.
So them selling that property and
it's
then
not going to become a used car lot.
Exactly.
And I've experienced that. Absolutely.
Property rights for everybody.
You're calling for stronger stormwater and impervious surface requirements. In fact, you just literally brought it up. Can you provide us with some standards that require strengthening?
Standards as far as the actual impervious materials, no.
I didn't mean it from that perspective. What I'm saying is you want stronger requirements. Explain that to us.
I don't necessarily think there's a stronger requirement that I had in mind when I was talking about impervious surfaces. It's just the basic logic of grass field versus parking lot. One absorbs, one runs off.
Well, what if we made it a semi-permeable membrane? Wouldn't that resolve everything?
That's what I have on my street in front of my house. Actually, I live on Hibiscus, and there's across the street is the Audubon Society and AG's pond. So our street has no asphalt. It's a rock material, and it's like a concrete. Looks like asphalt, it's just larger rocks, and it doesn't. The way I understand it, it doesn't have any petroleum-based products in it for the runoff and stuff. So that kind of stuff is nice, but it's also expensive. My point with the runoff is not paving so damn much. Keeping the baseball field a baseball field instead of a parking lot, that does more than anything.
If you pave it, they will come?
Yeah. If you pave it, they will park.
Your plan proposes allowing voters to decide the future of parks and public lands. Provide us with a scenario that would trigger a referendum on that issue.
So, it was 2018 or 2019. There was a unsolicited bid from a developer on the baseball fields. And still to this day, if you get 3 commissioners to vote yes on selling the baseball field, namely Sailfish Park, it's gone on a Monday night, and there's nothing we can do about it. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. So what my goal is right now, I've been pushing this hard. Public comment, I'm getting shut down by Campbell Rich for saying his name and how he handled a vote during public comment. But we had an opportunity to get this referendum on the ballot in May. And the mayor had pushed it forward. Laura Giobbe had made a motion to discuss it, and the motion died because Eula Clark and Campbell Rich sat there silent and let the motion die. Nobody would even second the motion. So with all the recent public pressure, hopefully some of my social media stuff has kind of pushed this forward and brought it to light. There's been a lot of pressure on Eula Clark and Campbell Rich to not screw around with this anymore. So we had another reading. Is it last Monday, I think? And then the second reading is on the 17th, the day before the election, to vote to put it on the November ballot. So that is specifically to protect Sailfish Park and Guy Davis Park. And the way it works right now, 3 commissioners agree on a Monday night, those parks are gone. The way I want it to work is 3 commissioners agree on a Monday night, it goes on the ballot, and then all the rest of us have to vote yes before that park goes. So again, my argument isn't that the park should not be sold. My argument is that the park belongs to the residents, the taxpayers,
And allow it to go
and
to direct democracy.
they should have a say in whether it is sold or not. So right now we're dealing with Guy Davis and Sailfish Park. I want to take that further so that it's all of the parks
Okay.
protected. But right now I'd rather have a small win than a big loss.
What would the objection be to your proposal of all the parks?
There hasn't been a good one. Nobody has really said anything about the referendum. My opponent talks well about the referendum that we have. We've used almost the identical language
Right.
from the same kind of referendum or same kind of charter amendment that protects the city's waterfront property with a referendum. So if they wanted to sell the property that City Hall is sitting on, they wouldn't be able to do that without going to a vote. So this is something that already exists in the city to protect some of our public land. It's been referred to as dangerous, and there's kind of this like smoke and mirrors kind of shell game that are going on. My opponent, Merritt Matheson, has mentioned a FERDAP grant to protect the parks, but a FERDAP grant doesn't actually protect that park. You get a grant, it protects that park, but you can do things like move it to another comparable location and then sell it, right? So it doesn't actually protect the park.
That is a show game.
So it's, and this is my suspicion. This park is right next to where the proposed Brightline station might possibly maybe go one day,
Mhm.
right? And I doubt that will ever happen, no matter what I want or what the residents want. That's a long shot with Brightline, if they're even in business for another year. But that park is right next to where that Brightline station could be. So as a speculative purchase for a developer to buy that park and then just hang on to it and see what happens, because with transit oriented development, they could break the 4-story limit and go higher, right? I don't know if they want to. I've heard bus depot, I've heard parking lot, I've heard apartments. You hear all these different things that come through the rumor mill, right? But the point is, I don't really care about any of that. I don't care what you want to make it. You need to have the approval of the people who own it before you sell it. That's the entire point.
I see no fire and brimstone involved in any of that. You describe East Stuart as the heart of Stuart's Black community and promise development without displacement. How do you propose to effectuate operationally development without displacement?
I don't know if I've used those exact words, but and a big part of protecting East Stuart is Sailfish Ballpark. You go from the Brightline location and you head east and you're in Sailfish Park.
Mm-hmm.
If you head south, now you're in East Stuart, right? One of my concerns with putting a Brightline station there is East Stuart is already coveted land. The Brightline station being there is going to exponentiate that. Having the baseball field up for development is going to do even more, right? It's just this nice little contiguous little new Abacoa or new tradition or whatever they can put there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And East Stuart is important from a historic standpoint because that is our Black community. They live there and have raised their families there, and this is a situation that, and I'm a pretty conservative guy, but I like to upset my conservative friends sometimes. And one of the ways I like to do that is talk about systemic racism, because it does exist. Like it's undeniable. When you go to East Stuart, you can see exactly where the boundary lines are. I live on the other side of Palm Beach Road, and this is from the practice of redlining in the 60s, 70s, 50s, probably, however far back that went. And it was illegalized in the 80s, I think it was. But the redlining practice basically just held the property values down, right? And it kind of kept them where they were. We now have extra layers of codes and requirements where if you're going to do anything in East Stuart, it has to go through extra steps and extra hearings. It makes it more difficult to make changes or develop your property in East Stuart. And in my view, it's a continuation of freaking redlining. those landowners, the people who own the property in East Stewart, again, should be able to do what they want with it. The families who live there, I don't want to see get priced out of their homes. Like, that's their neighborhood. They grew up there. They should be able to stay if they want to. I got priced out of Jupiter, right? I grew up in Jupiter and I had to move out. I know how that feels. It sucks. But those two things I just described to you are things that work against each other, right? If people who are landowners in East Stewart start to, develop or sell to a developer, that's going to drive prices up,
Right.
and you end up with gentrification, and all of a sudden I lose those neighbors, right? And these are decisions that have to be made based on, we're in a democratic system, and our democratic system isn't based on landowners. It's based on residents, right? It doesn't matter if you rent or you own, you get the same vote. That tells me that I have to listen to the people who live here, not just the people who own more land here. And I think that our priority, as the people that are asked to govern, are the people who live here. And, is it right? Is it wrong? I'm not sure. And I don't have all those answers, but I can tell you who I work for, because that's who hires me. And it's the voters. And those are residents.
What's your position on commission lobbying and disclosing?
Fort Lauderdale has a registry.
Mhm.
I think it's the City of Fort Lauderdale. I want to see. I think it would be nice for the voters to be able to see who their who their commissioners are talking to, who's playing tennis with who's having lunch at the country club, right? Not all of them, not all of the developers are registered lobbyists, right? So you don't have to report all those things, but I would like to see a level of transparency where, when a commissioner is having a conversation with somebody who is potentially a developer, or could eventually benefit from having a friend on the commission, that could be transparent, reported, and accessible to the public. How to do that, not exactly sure yet, but I would like to kick that around with the other commissioners and talk about it.
Can you think of one vote taken by the commission in the past year that should have failed if those commissioners had considered the best interest of the residents? Would you like me to repeat it? That's kind of a lengthy question.
Yeah, in the last year.
Can you think of one vote taken by the commission in the past year that should have failed if those commissioners had considered the best interest of the residents?
Off the top of my head, no, can't think of one. I'm not going to make anything up on you.
Does Merritt Matheson work for the residents?
No,
Who does he work for?
the developers and the special interests. And this is not opinion. You can go to his voting record, and savestewart.com is our website. There's two big links at the very top.
Okay.
One is for the record, and it's Merritt Matheson's voting record from 2018 to 2022. And there's a little eyeball next to each project where you can click on the eyeball, and it takes you right to the city website where you can watch the videos of him voting. You can read the meeting minutes and agendas. So it's all there. All the receipts are there. Back on our homepage, if you go to follow the money, again, at the top of the page, it takes you to the city website where all of the candidates and their financial reports are listed, including mine and all the other slow growth candidates. Every candidate for the city is on that page. You can click and look at any of the financial reports, the contributions and the expenditures for all the commissioners and all the candidates. It's important that we know who is paying them, because that's who they work for.
You show that 2,608 residential units were approved during Matheson's commission tenure, and he had voted yes on 1,892 of those units. What should the voters conclude from those numbers?
So there were a couple of projects that Merritt couldn't vote on. Well, he appropriately. He handled this the appropriate way. This isn't a dig. His in-laws are the Walker family,
Mm-hmm.
and they did the Avonlea development.
Okay.
So he did the proper process and filled out the paperwork for a conflict of interest and said he's going to abstain from that vote. Those are all listed on our site too. So we show the ones that he abstained from, which was appropriate. So we'll give credit where credit is due.
Sure.
So some of those he couldn't vote on without it being a conflict of interest, but the remaining ones are there, and it was yes votes, yes vote after yes vote. The ones that are the most critical, I guess, are the 1,644 units that required a land use change.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going beyond what the property rights are on the property when it was purchased, right? This is going commercial to residential, or any of the buying a piece of property and using it for something that was not intended for when it was zoned or planned,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are favors to developers. You don't have to give them that approval, and that's the biggest problem that I've had. We have those 2,608. Hey, we need houses. They can build houses. If you own a piece of property, you have a right to do with it what you want to do with it, as long as you're using it with its proper use. But those 1,644 apartments only exist because the commission approved them, and he voted yes.
With respect to those that both had the land use and zoning changes, is that indicative, in your opinion, of poor public administration?
Our infrastructure is already overwhelmed. I think it's piss poor planning.
Piss poor.
Yeah. And here's the extent to which our infrastructure and our services are stretched. If you know a fireman, ask him, how bananas is it to run a rescue with 2 people? And they'll say, who's running a rescue with 2 people? The City of Stuart. So on our fire department, we have ambulances and we have fire trucks that are designed and intended for 3 people to be on them at least. And we're running 2 because we're stretched so thin. We keep having to put more trucks on the road. We just added the fire station up near Jensen Beach Boulevard. So we're adding trucks, but we've added a lot of staff too, but the staff additions are not keeping up with the needs. Okay. So I'm talking with the firemen's union, and there are 2 reps are there, and they're kind of laying out for me what the issues are and what the problem is. When they're explaining this to me, I'm like, so you got 2 guys on a truck, like, what's the big deal? And I finally just said, show me, right? Just let me come do a ride along or something, right? So I end up going and doing a ride along. I went for 24 hours. I slept there, ate with the firemen, went on all the calls. It was great. It was amazing. Like a kid in a candy store riding around fire trucks, right? So the easiest way I can think of to explain it is if somebody you love is having a heart attack and the ambulance rolls up, there's 2 people in the ambulance. One's doing compressions, one's doing ventilator. Who's going to drive the truck, right? Who's going to go back to the truck and get the meds? So we're going to stop one of those processes so we can, and they have the heart medication. It's really cool. It goes in through your bone. Like they have to drill into your shoulder, and they actually deliver the heart meds into your bone marrow instead of, injecting it into your veins, because it gets delivered faster. So we have all this like really cool high-tech stuff that we can do to save people's lives. But in our case, we have to wait until the engine gets there so they have a 3rd person.
So it could be administered.
Yeah. Well, and they have workarounds for this kind of stuff, right? So nobody's dying right now because there's not enough people on the truck. What I'm saying is we have to wait until another truck shows up so that they have an extra hand to handle the situation, right? So why are we buying trucks that aren't fully manned when we could just be sending 1 truck to a call instead of sending 2, right? And the same situation with the structure fire. And I spent, a lot of time riding around on the fire truck, and a lot of time sitting in a chair looking at a marker board while the lieutenant was drawing diagrams and explaining these scenarios to me where If you have two people on an engine, they respond to a structure fire, it's going to add a minute to a minute and a half to the response of getting water on that fire because they don't have a third person on the car, on the fire engine. So the difference in a minute and a half
With
during a
fire.
structure fire,
I can't imagine.
that's the difference between your garage burning down and your house and your neighbor's house burning down, right? So
Yeah.
it's a big difference. It's an eternity. So there's all kinds of issues in downtown Stuart and Potsdam area where we have a sewage system that's designed to handle, a dozen or two houses, and then we build 49 new apartment units on the Triangle property, which is, ahead of Merritt Matheson's time. But, still we're cramming more sewage into those sewage lines than they were made for.
Yeah.
So the developer builds the apartments. They cash in. It's probably been sold to a private equity firm by now. So it's in a fund somewhere for people who probably never even heard of Stuart, Florida. And they're done. They've already gotten their money. Now the infrastructure and the capital investment of the sewage upgrades that need to happen come out of our pocket. So this whole concept of development paying for itself and apartments generating more revenue than single family homes, like, it still comes back to us.
You identify the Canner Costco project as including 376 apartments, with Mr. Matheson voting yes. If you were occupying his seat, would you have voted no?
Yes.
Why?
So the Costco isn't the issue here. The issue is...
So you're going on the record and saying you're not anti-Costco.
You guys have a video of me that I posted on my own page of me going in and getting a Costco glizzy. They are so good, and their chicken bakes are even better. I love Costco. I've been going to Costco. The fact that I don't have to drive all the way to North Lake.
Well, it could mean you're just pro hot dog and really not pro Costco.
They have good pizza.
Hey,
too.
there will be no spin.
Their pizza's good.
Pizza's good.
So the Costco situation, I maintain the same position that Merritt Matheson actually said in 2018 on the Casey Ingram interview, which was, as long as they follow the rules and we don't have to do any land use changes, like, Costco should build what they want to build. And that's the position that I hold. So that's not what happened. And that's not what he voted for. And his defense of it is, well, it could have been a lot worse. Well, yeah, we can always make things worse. That's what government's good at, is making things worse, right?
Yeah,
the less involved government is, the better your life is, right? So the Costco, and this is part of those 400 and something apartments that haven't even been built yet. I don't think they've even broken ground on the Costco apartments that are going in next door. But, under the Live Local Act, there's a potential for somebody to come in there and call it affordable housing and quadruple that number. So we could end up with 1,500 apartments there instead of the 376 that were approved, right? So we could have had a Costco with no apartments. That would have been nice. We could have not reduced that entire 49 acres into one retention pond and a baffle. That would have been nice. So there's a lot that came with the Costco that we could have done without.
I just want to go on the record. I'm glad there's no sarcasm in this room. This could have been a complicated interview.
You got to have fun, Lex.
Whew. Your slogan, keep Stuart. Okay. You get a C- for punctuation.
Well,
you need a comma.
There be a comma? There's supposed to be a comma.
Heavens, yes.
There's a comma on the truck.
It's not one on your hat.
Well, there's
not one on your hat.
There's no period.
There's not one on your hat.
It's just 3 words. Keep Stuart. There's not one on the shirt either. There is a comma on the truck.
I didn't see the truck. I'll look at it on the way back. I'm going to take a picture of it. And if it's not, I'm coming back in the studio.
We've had lots of conversations about where to use the comma and where not to use the comma. It's been well discussed.
It is fun. Seriously, when I'm looking at your hat, I'm saying, no. And I'm like, just pay attention to the interview, man. Focus on what he's saying. Okay, fine. Do you support changes to Stuart's comprehensive plan?
Plans change. I think it's important that whatever we do, it's done in the context of...
Do you support changes
to
the plan?
When necessary, yes.
So you're saying you don't support changes when they're not necessary?
I don't support unnecessary changes.
Unnecessary. I like the way that's phrased. That's a lot cleaner.
There's discrepancies between different parts of the comprehensive plan. I think that should be cleared up, and I'm not an expert on which
I was going to jump.
discrepancies
I
there
was
are.
ready to jump.
I saw you. You're gonna
Time to pounce.
And there's all these. We have these rule books that we're playing by in the city and in the county, and you have one rule book that says one thing, and then it might be a mismatch between that and another rule book, right?
So it's real.
And there's different teams, there's different departments, there's different people that are looking at these different areas. So I think it's important that we keep it open for discussion
and make it more comprehensive.
So
a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and I have an academy where it's an online school where we teach board certified behavior analysts. They do the autism behavior analysis and put together therapy programs for pediatric autism. So what we teach them is how to put a business together and build it, because they don't have any business training in that program. Sure. And one of the things that I'm always pushing for is you need to have a system that you're working by, right? So this is how and we take them from square one and we go all the way through building out the system that your business is going to run by. But the most important thing about that system is how it changes. Right? And we call it your system, right? You have to have your system by which you change the system, right? And always revisiting, always updating, always, and that's why we have version numbers on all these documents, because they get revised.
What version number are you on now?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it in double digits,
I got
triple
enough
digits?
gray on my face that, yeah.
So there's some single digits in your... Your website proclaims... Derreck will vote no on land classification and zoning changes. Plain and simple. Now, before we hearken to this condition, I'm going back to George Bush. Read my lips.
Mm-hmm.
No new taxes. We've all been there. Does this platform still remain that plain and simple?
I'm glad you asked that. So there's a couple different ways that you could read that.
You're not going to break into semantics right now.
No, hold on. So this is funny. So I had this conversation because after like going through all this stuff and having conversations with people who are smarter than I am about what should be changed and what shouldn't be changed. Mm-hmm. When we were originally talking about that as a talking point, and I'm kind of bouncing it off people who know better than I do, and when I said it, it was, I'm going to say no to land classification, which is more of like a county term, like land use and land classification are kind of used interchangeably. So in the city, they call it future land use. Right?
All fair.
So future land use changes are, like we were talking about, commercial to residential. Mm-hmm. That's a big change. Mm-hmm. That gets packaged together with zoning changes. So I was talking about not changing that together as a package.
Okay.
Right.
That clarifies it.
But the funny part of it was I made a joke out of it with somebody, but I said I will vote no. Some of them won't vote no.
Yes. I said that no.
So I will vote no on those. Some of them won't. I didn't say I would vote no on all of them necessarily, but yes, that is what I mean. I don't see a
no. That is legitimate clarification,
and I don't see a justification at this point. Mm-hmm. Not in the next 4 years that we need any changes in our future land use on any piece of property.
That's fair. In an interview by Casey Ingram, you just mentioned her podcast earlier, and bravo, ma'am. Big fan, very big fan of your podcast.
She's getting a lot of flack she doesn't deserve. She's a great woman.
It's cool. You state you work for the Stuart residents, and that's cool. But what do you do when your bosses disagree?
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with Cody Johnson of East Stuart.
I would like one thing to take place in the studio without it coming up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, so the
I just had this conversation. It's funny you should bring it up.
So he was asking me what are you going to do to protect East Stuart? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, there's not the commissioner isn't in a position to do anything for anybody. We're voted for. We're elected by popular vote for a reason.
Right.
So it's our job to do what the residents want, and we got to do what makes most residents happy. So the important the important thing is that communication between the residents and the commission, like the backyard chicken stuff, right? Like I hear from 300 people that they want backyard chickens, and I hear from one that they don't, right? But then you get the reason for it. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's figure out how we can regulate this where the rats aren't a problem, right? And what I told Cody, I was like, you can't come into the commission with a solution that's going to make 20 people in East Stewart happy and expect the commissioner or 20% of East Stewart happy and expect the commission to support it when they know that the other 80% are going to hate him for it, right? So Charlie White actually was a chief of police and then a commissioner later, decades ago. And he lived 2 houses over from where I live on Hibiscus. And Charlie was well known for firing up a little committee, right? And he's got, Becky wants something, Susie doesn't want something. And hey, why don't you guys get together? Let's have a conversation about it, right? You both did public comment. You both have really good arguments, but let's figure out a way that it's going to make both of you okay with it. Maybe everybody doesn't walk away completely happy, but let's come up with something that is actually going to work for everybody. Good
mediation. Everyone walks out a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's going to win,
nope,
but nobody's going to lose, and nobody's going to lose big, right? And the backyard chicken thing is a perfect example of that. I know you love it. Proper regulation and management of that whole situation, I think, would take care of everybody's concerns.
Okay, I'm going to go back to school and get a PhD in poultry management.
Yes, husbandry. Yeah, chicken husbandry.
No, management.
Hen husbandry.
No, I want to be a little more broad. And what if I meet a rooster that identifies as a hen?
Here we go.
I'm not ready for this stuff, man. I'm not qualified.
We're going deep.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Derreck, we've exhausted our issues. We've exhausted our time. You get the final word.
Hey, August 18th. The Stuart voters have the final say in all of this. So I won't be offended if you guys decide that I'm not the guy for the job. But
where could people learn more about your campaign?
SaveStuart.com.
SaveStuart.com.
We're on Instagram at SaveStuartFL. We have all kinds of fun videos, and some of it's me talking to myself.
So if I go to Keep Stuart Stuart, what does that bring me? .com.
I have no idea.
You'd have no idea. No. I'm buying that domain just so you can.
I couldn't believe Save Stuart was available.
And I'm putting a comma in it.
I don't think you do.
No period. Actually, there will be. Period.com. You're going to win that one. You get the period and I don't get the comma. Life is hard. Okay, governors, we hope you found this interview informative. I certainly found it humorous. Please hit that like button so we could direct our attention to the content you prefer. There's more to follow. Please subscribe so you could be kept current. A special thank you to our producers. Without them, we're nothing. From everyone here at Govern Your Shit, we appreciate your support. We'll never take you for granted. Governors govern. Superior.